I don't care how you feel about it, my best friend Kevin said flatly as he walked out of my apartment with my boyfriend. I stood frozen, shocked, my eyes fixed on the keys they'd left on the table. They weren't mine. These were for the apartment they'd be sharing together. That night, I made a silent promise. They'd both learn the cost of betraying the wrong person. My name is Aiden. I'm 32, and I thought my life in Portland, Oregon was steady. For 2 years, Lucas and I had built a home together, late night. Talks over cheap wine, wandering through endless rain, whispering our dreams in the dark. He was my safe harbor, the reason I believed I could be myself despite the world's judgment. Kevin had been my friend since college, always around, always making me laugh, always there when work wore me down. I trusted them completely. Then came that Tuesday. I came home earlier than usual. The apartment was too quiet, yet something felt off. Lucas's jacket hung on a chair beside Kevin's. From the bedroom, I caught the sound of their voices, low and secretive. "We'll tell him tomorrow," Lucas whispered. My stomach dropped. On the table, under the warm light, lay a set of keys marked with an address I didn't know. My hands shook as I picked them up. They were moving in together. My partner and my best friend had been planning a future without me. I stood there, rooted to the spot, the metal biting into my palm. My heart pounded as memories crashed over me. Lucas promising forever, Kevin swearing loyalty just weeks ago. The betrayal cut deep, sharp and merciless. I wanted to storm in, to yell, but my legs refused to move. Instead, I slipped quietly out, the door clicking shut behind me. Portland's drizzle soaked me as I walked aimlessly, the city's hum drowning my thoughts. I couldn't confront them yet. By midnight, I was on a park bench, the keys still in, my pocket. My phone buzzed. Lucas's name lit the screen. "Where are you?" I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through months of old messages, every sweet word now tasting like a lie. I thought of my parents, who'd dismissed my identity as a phase, and my sister, who hadn't spoken to me since I came out. I'd fought so hard to create a life where I could live openly, and now it was collapsing. I wandered into a 24-hour diner, the kind where no one asks questions. A waitress slid a cup of coffee toward me. I stared into the dark surface, replaying the moment I heard their voices. I wasn't just furious. I was ashamed. Had I been blind? Too trusting? At work, I'd always kept my private life guarded, dodging personal questions to avoid judgment. Now, even my private sanctuary felt destroyed. The coffee went cold as I sat there thinking. I wasn't one for confrontations, but silence wasn't an option. By dawn, I was back at the apartment, the keys heavy in my grip. Lucas was asleep alone on the couch. Kevin was gone. I stood over him, my shadow stretching across his face. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. His eyes opened wide. Guilt flashed before he masked it. He sat up, fumbling for words, but I cut him off, dropping the keys on the table. "Explain." His face drained of color. The truth spilled out. He'd been with Kevin for months, and they'd planned to leave me. Each word landed like a blow, but I kept my expression still. "Get out," I told him. He grabbed his jacket and left without a fight. Alone, I collapsed onto the couch, my chest tight with rage and grief. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I opened my laptop, staring at code I was too shaken to write. Work had always been my escape, but now even that felt empty. I'd hidden my truth from coworkers for years, sidestepping questions about weekends or relationships. Now I realized, if the people closest to me could betray me, why should strangers' opinions matter? My phone buzzed with messages from friends, but I ignored them. I couldn't handle their pity. Rejection had been a shadow in my life for years. I could still hear my father's silence after I told him who I truly was, and my mother's pleading voice asking me to fix myself. I thought Lucas had been the safe place I could retreat, too. Instead, he'd only made the wound deeper. By evening, I couldn't sit still. My legs carried me in restless loops around the apartment until I grabbed my keys and stepped into Portland's damp, hazy streets. The city seemed different, its lights sharper, its sounds scraping against my nerves. I ducked into a bar thinking the crowd might drown my thoughts. It didn't work. A stranger bumped into me, spilling my drink, then muttered something under his breath. The edge in his tone, disdain, maybe disgust, was something I recognized. I'd seen that look too many times growing up, whenever I dared to be myself. I left, hands trembling, and sat on a cold curb. The concrete grounded me in a way nothing else could. That's when Noah appeared, handing out flyers for a local art show. His energy cut straight through the fog in my head. "You look like you could use a distraction," he said with a half-smile, holding one out to me. I took it, not because I cared about the event, but because something about him felt steady. We talked about music, the city, anything except my life. He didn't press for details, but his openness about who he was rattled me. He lived unapologetically, a freedom I'd never allowed myself. "Come to the show," he said, scribbling his number on the flyer. I nodded, though I didn't know if I'd go. Back home, I tossed it onto the counter. Noah's confidence was, like a mirror, reflecting everything I'd been avoiding about myself. Lucas and Kevin's betrayal wasn't just about them. It was about how little faith I had in my own worth. I picked up the flyer, running my thumb over the number. I didn't call that night, but something inside me shifted. I wasn't ready to heal, but I was done shattering. For days, the flyer stayed close, on my desk, in my jacket pocket. His words lingered in my mind until I finally texted him. We met at the gallery. Inside, voices mixed with bright splashes of color on the walls. But Noah stood out. He guided me through the crowd, introducing me to friends who welcomed me without hesitation. The warmth felt strange, almost too much, but it cracked something open in me. Over coffee afterward, Noah told me his story. He'd been rejected too, lost a job after someone outed him, but he refused to shrink himself. "I'd rather be alone than pretend," he said, his voice steady. His words cut right through me. I realized I'd built walls so high I couldn't even see the world beyond them. I told him about Lucas and Kevin. The wound was still fresh, but he didn't flinch. "You're not your pain," he said simply. I wanted to believe it. Weeks passed, and Noah became part of my days. Bookstores, food carts, quiet park benches. Every shared moment chipped away at my guardedness. He pushed me to be honest, to stop dodging questions about my life. One night over pizza, I admitted I'd never told my coworkers who I was. "Why not?" he asked. I froze. The answer was simple but heavy. Fear. Fear of losing everything again. Then came the moment that twisted my stomach. At work, I overheard a conversation. Someone mentioning Noah's name, then adding a cruel rumor about his unstable behavior. My heart dropped when I recognized the voice spreading it. Kevin. He'd landed a job at a nearby tech company, and now he was trying to sabotage Noah's reputation at his new design studio. This time, the anger that hit me was sharper than when I first saw those apartment keys. Kevin wasn't just trying to hurt me, he was dragging someone I cared about into his games. Kevin wasn't just coming after me anymore. He was targeting someone who'd given me a glimpse of a way forward. I couldn't keep quiet. That night, I went to Noah and showed him the posts and messages I'd stumbled across. His jaw tightened, but he only shrugged. "I've been through worse," he said. His calm strength only sharpened my resolve. I started digging into Kevin's online footprint, gathering screenshots of texts, copies of emails he'd sent to Noah's boss. All meant to undermine him. My finger hovered over the send button. If I exposed him, it could drag me into a spotlight I'd spent years avoiding. But Noah deserved better, and so did I. I sent the proof anonymously to Noah's boss, explaining Kevin's motives. By morning, Noah texted me. Kevin had been fired. Relief came with a strange edge of unease. I'd crossed a line, but I couldn't regret it. That night, Noah asked me to dinner to celebrate. His voice carried an unmistakable gratitude. Over wine and shared plates, something shifted. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't running from myself. When I reached across the table for his hand, my pulse raced, but I didn't pull back. His hand was warm in mine, steadying me as we walked out into the humming Portland night. Still, Kevin's downfall didn't erase the shadow Lucas had left. Back home, I scrolled through our old messages and found the proof, texts where he and Kevin had mocked me, plotted their move behind my back. My hands shook as I saved the evidence. This wasn't revenge. It was about reclaiming my voice. The next morning, I called Lucas. His tone was smug, as if he expected me to apologize. "Meet me at the park," I said flatly. He agreed. Under a gray, heavy sky, I faced him. "I know everything," I told him, showing the screenshots. His smirk faded as he read them, the silence stretching between us. "You don't get to walk away untouched," I said. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I posted the truth online, tagging mutual friends and letting the screenshots speak for themselves. This wasn't about tearing him down. It was about closing the chapter. By evening, my phone was buzzing with messages, some shocked, others angry on my behalf. Word spread fast. I heard Lucas had left the apartment he'd shared with Kevin, now on his own again. The heaviness in my chest eased, but the wind felt strangely empty. When Noah and I met for coffee, he simply said, "You did what you had to do." I nodded, but admitted the cost. My pain was now public. He leaned in slightly, his voice even. "You're not hiding anymore. That's strength." His words sparked something inside me, a determination to stop letting fear make my choices. That night, I took a step I hadn't dared in months. I invited Noah over and cooked dinner, even if the pasta came out burnt. We laughed, the tension of the past, few weeks loosening between us. Later, sitting side by side on the couch, knees brushing, I told him about my family's rejection, the years I'd spent trying to dodge judgment. He shared his own scars, losing friends, rebuilding his life from nothing. Our stories tangled, together, raw and unfiltered. I leaned in, my first kiss tentative. He kissed me back, steady, warm, sure. It wasn't just attraction, it was trust, something I hadn't felt since Lucas, settled quietly between us. We pulled back from the kiss, smiling, no words needed. It felt like a promise, delicate but real. As Noah stepped out into the night, he gave my hand a firm squeeze. "This is just the beginning," he said. I stood at the doorway, heart pounding with a new sense of possibility. The next morning, his kiss was still on my mind, that quiet spark urging me to move forward. I'd spent years dodging my truth, but with him, hiding felt impossible. I opened my laptop to a blank email addressed to my parents. I'd avoided them ever since they turned away from me, but Noah's courage pushed me to reach out. I wrote, plainly, no apologies, about who I was and what I needed from them. My pulse quickened as I hovered over send. Then I clicked. By midday, my phone rang. My mother's voice was hesitant, not warm but not cold either. "I read your email," she said. "I don't understand everything, but I want to try." It wasn't full acceptance, not yet, but it was the first crack in a wall I'd thought was solid. I breathed out slowly, relief tangled with caution. I told her about Noah, about piecing my life back together after betrayal. She asked small questions, and I could hear the effort in her voice. We agreed to talk again soon, a step I never expected. Later, Noah invited me to a pride parade in Portland. I froze. I'd never gone before, too afraid of being exposed. But the idea of walking beside him without shame pulled at me. I said yes. That weekend, we joined the crowd, streets alive with music, flags waving in every direction. Noah's hand found mine, steady and certain. As we moved with the throng, strangers cheered, their joy washing over us. For the first time, I didn't scan faces for judgment. I felt visible, not as a secret, but as myself. Back at work, I took another leap. In a meeting, someone asked what I'd done over the weekend. Normally, I'd dodge the question, but this time, I said it. I went to the parade. My voice didn't waver. There was a pause, then a coworker smiled. "Sounds like fun," she said. Another asked about Noah. Genuine curiosity, not mockery. I answered easily, and each word made my chest feel lighter. The fear I'd carried for years started to loosen its grip. Weeks later, Noah and I were on a park bench with coffee. He told me how his own family had taken years to come around. "It's not perfect," he said, "but it's progress." I thought of my mother's call and nodded. We planned a short trip to the coast. Nothing extravagant, just a small step toward the life we were shaping together. I leaned against him, feeling the quiet comfort of not being alone. Lucas and Kevin were little more than ghosts now, their betrayal just an old scar. I'd heard Lucas left Portland chasing a fresh start that would be anything but simple. My world, however, was here, with Noah, with my family's slow acceptance, with the self I was finally choosing to embrace. As we walked home under the city's flickering lights, I realized freedom didn't have to be loud. It was in the choice. To live without hiding, to love without fear, to trust again. I squeezed Noah's hand, ready for whatever was waiting ahead. I wasn't running anymore.